are not able to go to school. And now we are having an increase in the number of street children. So what we did was to use the law and tell Parliament, at that time there was no Parliament actually at that time, but tell the government that we need to pass laws. So this was what we did. This is becoming a lawyer. So this is a picture of me in Volta Hall. I think it was Volta Hall week or something. So this is just a picture of me going to studies. You can see I'm in a play deck. We had play deck and we dressed. They said sometimes it's Volta Hall goes male or Volta Hall goes traditional and all that. I suppose this was Volta Hall going traditional. So I've talked to you about my work as a lawyer, and we were really able to do a lot applying the law. So for about 7 years or more, we agitated, we shouted, we demonstrated, we spoke in Ghana about the need to have a domestic violence act. And ultimately, we were able to. We went to United, we went to New York, we went to Geneva, we went to Ethiopia, Africa Union. Anywhere would get the opportunity, would go and speak to the issue. So this was an example of using the law. In 1998, we had the situation of HIV, where we had increasing numbers globally. We had a problem with HIV. Young people were getting HIV. The transmission rates were going up. And so I was asked by the Ghana Population Council to be part of a group to come up with the first ever HIV policy in Ghana. So I was able to apply the law. Though I was a lawyer, I was able to apply the law, and we came up with an HIV policy, and 1 decade later, we now even have an act of parliament. Another example of using the law out of the courtroom and out of the corporate space is on abortion, and I'm very proud about that. I realized that in our criminal code, you couldn't have an abortion and it was a crime. But there were exceptions to the rule. So if it will affect your mental health, you can terminate. If you go and do a scan and you realize that the child has not been formed properly, is abnormal, or the fetus cannot survive, you can terminate. But what was happening is that the perception across Ghana was that abortion was a crime. So together with some doctors, Dr. Brookman Emisa, Dr. Taylor, and a few others, Jehuapia, we started, and Professor Sai, Fred Sai, may he rest in peace, we started campaigning for our healthcare system to be changed, for doctors to be trained, for pharmacists to be retrained, so that they will provide for abortion under the law. And several decades or 2 decades or whatever later, now I'm sure you can walk into some healthcare facilities, and if you want to have an abortion and it is permissible under the law, you will get that termination of pregnancy. Here again, together with stakeholders and other partners, I was able to apply the law out of the courtroom, out of corporate practice, to make sure that women in Ghana would be able to terminate pregnancies once it is within the law. And not only that, make sure that pharmacists would provide the correct medication to facilitate that, and also if it is like a second trimester or whatever, the obstetrician gynecologist would be able to terminate it in a medical facility. So these are the ways that one used to apply the law. So this was when I was called to the bar in 1992 with my friend Leslie. Apart from that, in doing this work, I did a lot of activism, demonstrations. I'm queen mother of demonstrations in Ghana. Would do a whole plan, and then would do demonstrations. I remember once, it must have been 2007 or so, we walked barefoot. We mobilized about maybe 50 people, and we walked barefoot from the Supreme Court to the Black Star Square. And our thing was that there were human rights violations. Pregnancy, and also making sure that women get fewer women die from giving birth. Maternal mortality. A lot of women were dying when they go and give birth. They bleed to death and all that. So I did a lot of work on that, and I've carved a niche in that in terms of reproductive health, public health, and human rights law. So I've talked to you about what we did in championing human rights, and I'll just give examples. Initiative. It's we did a lot of human rights monitoring in Ghana. And so when there were human rights violations, what we do would be, I would try and address them. And I'll give a few examples. For instance, the military went to islands in the Volta Lake, Dija Islands, and you can Google all of this. And they sought to eject the and all that. And so government subsequently set up a committee to investigate. Apart from that, I also recall 40 Ghanaians being killed in the Gambia. 40 Ghanaians were killed in Gambia.